Yo, what's up, people? Remember this place? It's been a minute. Oh my God. Epic journey home yesterday. A little crazy. There was crazy winds in the UK. Crazy winds. And so it was wild just getting home because I don't know, flights were getting canceled and stuff like that. But anyways, I managed to get on a flight yesterday, and it was a pretty nice flight. The airport was insane though. It was like when you get in the terminal and there's like 2,000 people and like multiple lineups that look like they stretch on for blocks, and you're like, oh my God, how am I going to navigate this? And just had to figure out how to find the right line to get in to drop my bags. And always check in these days before you go to the airport. That's my travel tip for you. Get checked in early, get your boarding passes and stuff, because when you get there, you never know what kind of nightmare it might be. And if you got to check in at especially at any major airport, Madrid, Heathrow, I guess maybe Atlanta. It seems like maybe it's a little more together in the States, but Heathrow, it's a messy thing. You can even figure out what terminal you're at. You'd think, oh, it's an airport. I'm in Terminal 5, but I'm going to get dropped off at Terminal 3. That's easy, right? No, it's like miles away. Like it's a crazy airport. Anyways, I'm home, and how's the jet lag? Well, I managed to sleep last night from about 12:30. I watched 4 movies on the plane yesterday. There was headwinds too the whole way back, so the flight was really slow. It was like 11 and a half hours back to LA. So, and I had a nice seat actually in this flight that I got switched to. I got a nice seat in the kind of the BA premium economy section, which is great. It's like great seat that reclines way back and more space, and it was comfortable. The people were really nice, actually. All the flight attendants and everything. Once I got on the plane, it was a pretty great experience. I watched like 4 movies, slept only like an hour, and so of course by the time I got back, it was super late LA time, like 4 a.m. or something. Went and got a pizza, went home, and managed to sleep then from like midnight until 7 a.m. So that's pretty good. All right. Heathrow had Eunice. Yeah, that was the day before I flew. That's why it was crazy, because a lot of flights have been canceled and then rescheduled, or so it was like for those that hadn't heard about this big storm, they had like 60 to 80 mile an hour winds come through, which of course was made the airplanes taking off and stuff crazy. So well, let's get into some guitar stuff. Let's talk about guitars. Have you ever used an Eventide H3000 preset 519? Is that micro pitch by any chance? I'm not sure if it is or not, or what preset is that? What does it do exactly? The only thing I've done with those is basically micro pitch as well as mod delay. So those are the 2 things I've kind of done with those. Yeah. That new Helix update sucked. Was there a problematic Helix update that I haven't done? I always like to wait, make sure that I don't do a lot of updating of anything on my computers of my car. My car now has updates that you have to do to it, I was like, oh, what happens if that doesn't work? The car won't work. So software updates, I'm weary of them. In general, and maybe this is just like I sound like an old guy, but I don't know how you guys feel. I feel like they do these updates all the time and don't necessarily take into consideration that not all of us want to relearn how to use things all the time. But it's great. It's like this now. It's better. And it's like, yeah, but you get so used to like muscle memory and, where on a screen a control is, for instance. It just happened to me right now. I was doing the thumbnail for this show, and I use a program, which is nice. It's an app, called Bizart on my phone to make the thumbnails, with the text and the photo and all that. So it said install update, and I was like, all right. So I installed the update, which took 5 seconds or whatever, and then I opened it up, and then there was something right away that I used to know how to do, which is like place when you've got a photo and text. Let's say, and you want to put the text on top of the photo. Now I have the photo covering up the text. You need to direct, you need to tell it to put the text on top. Well, they totally changed that button and where it is in the app. It was like, oh, God damn it. Like it was like 10 minutes ago before we went live. before I went live here. Just trying to figure out little things like that, you know, and you're like, don't change stuff all the time just because, oh, we've updated this. Isn't it better? You know, I feel like you get inside these designers' brains. You know, I feel like this often with pedals. Like maybe it's just my I have a bit of a block when it comes to learning new technology now because I've done so much of it. You know, when I have like the Helix here and Axe Effects and a quad cortex and computers and 2 different DAWs and you know, every new pedal under the sun and stuff that comes out, where you're constantly learning the new, okay, this is how to do this. My least favorite is loopers. I've probably talked about this before, but looping pedals, when they try and cram a lot of functions into like 1 button or 2 buttons, hold it for 3 seconds and it goes in reverse. Double tap it and it goes down an octave. Like all this kind of stuff. God, it's like, no. And you know, if you just got into it, you could learn those things and then it would become like second nature. But when you're doing that like every day, I feel like the brain just goes through like I don't want to learn stuff like anymore sort of phase, you know, like all the time. So anyway, maybe you guys can relate. I know I bitch about this sometimes. Mike, thanks for the super chat. Do you know of any good Leslie pedals? Lots. The Lex is really nice. The, you know, it's same sounds basically, I think, in the Mobius from Strymon. My favorite is probably the Ventilator. It's amazing. Really great, but it's just a standalone Leslie thing. So that's what's the company? Well, just look up Ventilator rotary speaker simulator and you'll find it. I have the old original version that's kind of big. They make a smaller one now, but it's really stellar sounding. The H9 Leslie algorithm is also really, really good, I think. I quite like that. So check that out if you've got an Eventide H9. Pigtronics one was really nice. Lots of great Leslie pedals out there, right? The old Rotosphere. I think the Ventilator was kind of the, you know, I see a lot of keyboard players use it too. So it was kind of the, you know, a standard. Yeah. Okay. What gauge strings do I like, and have I ever tried the D'Addario balanced tension? Is the balanced tension different than any other regular 9s and 10s and stuff? Because I have tried the strings. Sorry, guys, I've got a cough. It ain't COVID. I got a cold, a good old-fashioned cold for the last week or so of tour. That was nice. Always fun. First cold I've had in 2 years. England kicked my ass a little bit. Anyways, I've tried the 9.5s and the 10s and the 9s, I guess, in the NYXL strings, which are you know, I think the Dario makes really great strings. I'm an Ernie Ball guy, endorser, and I'm very happy with their strings. I think I think they're kind of similar. I mean, I don't really notice a appreciable difference or anything like that. Does anybody out there? I mean, the main thing is when I change formulations from a nickel plated what was it, nickel plated steel, like what's the standard, what do they call it, you know, like you've got your stainless steel strings, almost nobody uses those. You've got pure nickel, and then you've got nickel plated steel, I think is what it is, right? Which is like every other string under the sun, like Ernie Balls and D'Addario. Yeah. So that's what I use. Primo Slinky from Ernie Ball, and that's what I really like. It's a nice gauge, you know. Eventually, I may just go to 9s and just wuss out, you know, because they feel great to me, to be honest, you know. And it's just like a little less work. And do you have a preference between tremolo or chorus if you could use only one? You know, I honestly, and this is probably not the hip answer, but I'm a chorus guy over tremolo. Tremolo is more something I use on specific parts that were written with tremolo, but you know, whatever. If you're playing the guitar part, the Born on the Bayou, you're gonna have tremolo or certain sounds, you know. But chorus is, I grew up in the 80s. I kind of like chorus. I mean, I never had that thing where when people are like, oh, chorus, I hate chorus. It was like, yeah, but like, what about Rush? And what about like the guitar tone on Back on the Chain Gang by the Pretenders? Like, that's an amazing guitar sound. It just always will be. I always love that sound. It's so beautiful, and it's chorus to hell, you know? So Andy Summers. You know, I don't know. I was never got the chorus hate, really. I think it's kind of pretty. Thank you guys for the super chats. Can you talk a little about your mic signal from the cabinet to DAW? Getting good unclipped tones. You know, with a 57, you can really crank they're not a super high gain microphone. So it's like you'll be able to turn up your mic pre a little bit and get at least 10 or 15 dB a gain out of the pre even with a 57. If you use a hot condenser, like on my 4050, for example, my AT, or if you use a 414 or something, you're going to need to probably use the pad. If you, you know, like any kind of condenser, large diaphragm microphone, generally speaking, when you put it on a guitar amp, you probably want to turn on the pad. You might be able to use it without getting distortion, but I don't feel like the pad, you know, degrades the tone or anything like that. And I feel like it just gives you more room to adjust then and actually, you know, gain up your pre a bit and get the sound of the pre. Because I just find like a lot of times with condenser mics, I can barely crack open the preamp if it's in front of an electric guitar amp, you know, condenser microphone. So that's the only thing. So like turn on the 10 dB, 15 dB pad or whatever is on your mic, and then gain up the preamp a little bit. Now, beyond that, there's not really much to it. It's just down to position, you know, and you just have to try and see what you like. Dynamount is something that I've found amazing to have in my studio. Maybe you guys have seen that thing, the Dynamount. Like it's a movable mic clip stand thing that, you know, you mount it on a stand, but it looks like a kind of an X, or like an X, and it's you know, you can move your microphone in all axes back and forth, and so you can get it right on this, you know, point it at the speaker, move it around. You can rotate it like this. You can back and forth, you know, and it's amazing. So I have one of those. I made a video on it if you'd like to check it out. And that really helps. Backing the microphone away from the amplifier, of course, really helps. Getting less, you know, if you have certain sensitive ribbon microphones like Cole's 4038s, let's say, they don't take a lot of, you know, you can't really hammer them with like a close mic signal from a guitar amp. There's a lot of ribbon mics I found like that where they'll start to crap out and you'll hear them actual distortion, you know. Listen at my other trick is listen at a low volume on headphones. So if you've got the cab well isolated and it's not screaming, you know, so that you can't really tell what's going on, if it's in another room, listen to the signal on headphones. It may be recorded as well, so you're not playing and getting the string noise, you know, like play really hard your loudest sounds and then listen back on the headphones at kind of a low volume, because you can hear digital clipping and kind of like microphone clipping like that you would get from, like I was just mentioning, from a ribbon microphone. I hear it better when it's not loud coming through studio monitors. That can tend to mask the sound a bit on headphones at really low volume. Listen for any kind of stuff, or, you know, sort of on the top end, like those sorts of sounds. I don't know how else to describe it, but when you start to hear digital clipping, you know, or mic pre-clipping or that kind of thing. Even an old Neve, I mean, the way they distort is cool, but it's like if it goes too far, you'll start to hear this sound that it's like something's distorting, you know. And yeah, so you want to listen for any of that kind of stuff. Also, sometimes those things, if you use a patch bay and the patch bay gets old and the connections are, you know, you'll find that you get those kinds of sounds, those fitzy kind of sounds. And you go to your patch bay and plug the cables in and out, and then all of a sudden it goes away. You know, it's just like bad connections. And so that's something to consider too, you know, keeping everything clean, keeping some deoxit around to deoxidize your, it can happen to the connections on the back of your audio interface. It can happen anywhere, especially if you're in a humid climate or something, you know, so all those kinds of things. But anyways, you guys are making me think. I mean, the one tip is listen at a low volume through headphones to make sure the signal, when you're trying to listen for distortion and making sure signals are clean, that tends to work really well for me. Okay, what else we got here? Let's see. I'm just going to back up in the chat here and randomly select some stuff. Stock pickups in my EVH Wolfgang are good, yet a little raspy. Super Distortion Bridge or bare knuckle mule for hard rock. Very different. I mean, a Super Distortion is a ceramic magnet. A mule is an Alnico 4, I think. kind of similar to Thornbuckers. I think they are, maybe at least in output on paper, you know. Hard rock, a super distortion is a very unique sound. You listen to the pickup thing that I did, the Van Halen pickup shootout. That's what I would do, actually. Listen to that, and maybe because there's 14K Alnico 2 humbuckers in there. There's, you know, 9K Alnico 2 humbuckers. There's 8 point something K Alnico 5 humbuckers. There's a wide range of pickups in there, and you can listen for kind of what you think. And then there's a super distortion, of course. We did it in there as well as the Mighty Mite. You can hear how different it sounds. Certainly for a hard rock sound, you know, listen to the tone of the super distortion in that video, the big bass. It's a big, full, fat distortion with it you get out of a ceramic magnet distortion pickup, like the Duncan Custom or the Seymour Duncan super distortion. They have a big, wide, flat sound to me that kind of is cool for like heavy distortion. I've grown to appreciate it. Actually, and you know, to me it's the "you really got me" guitar sound. So I'm pretty sure that's what's going on there, as opposed to the sort of more mid-focused Alnico sound. A little different, you know. When you say raspy, I wonder if you mean that, because the thing about a distortion pickup, to me, they almost are sort of brighter, but they're also a bigger bass. There's a big, fat, full sound. So would that be more raspy to you, or is raspy to you more an upper mid thing? You know, it's hard to define sound sometimes with words, I guess. For us, you know, that even though we make our best effort, it can mean something else to someone else. So what's your favorite miking technique for a guitar speaker? You know, 9 times out of 10 what I find myself doing is just putting a 57 somewhere. You know, the Van Halen thing's dead center, but I don't generally do that. I'm going to move it out for my own sounds. Although it's really cool for that one sound, but you move it out to where the cap meets the cone, and then you kind of move it out a little further if you want it a little warmer. And then I can angle. These days with my Dynamount, as I mentioned earlier, I can actually angle it. So sometimes if I want it less rasp, that word the fella just used, I can angle it out from the pointing right at the speaker, more towards the edge of the speaker rather than the center. That'll actually tame the high end in a pretty cool way. If I want a little more cut, a little more bright, I can angle it in towards the thing. So just some variation of like that, you know, but generally speaking, kind of where the cap meets the cone and just out a little bit from there is where I'll put a 57. And then a condenser, if I'm, let's say, doing it on the same speaker, I'll just put it on the other side and in a similar sort of position. You know, and you want to sort of try and phase align. That's a whole other discussion. But, you know, generally speaking, you want the capsules to be equidistant from the speaker. So you don't want the condenser to be back like a half a foot or something, or you'll get some comb filtering kind of weirdness if you blend the mics. So, and sometimes I'll use a ribbon. Sometimes that second mic will be a ribbon. Sometimes it'll be another dynamic like a 421. And sometimes it'll be a condenser, which is what I'm currently really digging, which is an Audio Technica 4050. Yeah. I'll just get a blend between the two mics. Occasionally I'll pull up one of the mics and just go, let's just go with the one mic for this sound, you know. A 4050 is like a great big clear overall representation of the sound, kind of flat. And you know, like, yeah, that's that. And then like the 57 is more of that sizzle and upper cut that a 57 gives with its distinct frequency pattern. It's like adding an EQ to the sound almost. You know, whereas the 4050 is more accurate sort of to what's coming out of the cabinet, but both can be good. Rhett, what's up, dude? How you doing, man? What's happening? How's your studio coming? Building a new studio, right? Looks awesome from what I've seen. Just excellent. I want to check it out one of these days. Get out there too. You're in Atlanta, right? I think so. Let's see it one of these days. What else we got here? I have an oversized 112, has a ton of usable bottom end. What would be a good mic to use to record it, assuming I don't want something 57? Well, it's 4050. I love that mic. It's a great mic on vocals, acoustic guitar, overheads, room. If you want something that's not a 57, get that. Thank me later. You can use it on everything. I know a ton of sound engineers that are like, that is a workhorse microphone. You know, both live guys and studio guys, like great workhorse all around. If you had a 57 and a 4050, you could kind of do anything. You know, like do mono drums. You could put the 57 on the kick and the 40-50 in front of the kit, or mono overhead. Acoustic guitar, you can do the 40-50. Electric guitar, blend the two if you want. Vocals, 40-50, you know. Just kind of like those would be a killer all around home studio kind of, you know, got it all covered setup, in my opinion. Very different sounding and complement one another. Scenario: one rock gig, 70s, 80s, 90s covers. Okay. One guitar, one amp, two pedals. One of them has to be a tuner. Well, you need an amp that's got two channels to cover distortion. Then at that point, and I think you probably need. I would probably get something, if I'm only allowed one pedal, like a. Can my pedal be an HX stomp? Because you can use it 4 cable, right? So that would be my one pedal, because then I could do fake gain and delay, you know, whatever, like delay sounds and stuff in front or in the loop or whatever. So that's what I would do. Yeah, I'll make it one pedal because it can be the tuner too. How about an HX effects? Can it be a multi-effect pedal? Then it can use that with, it's a little more versatile with the switching and stuff. If you mean just a single pedal, probably, well, how about an H9? It's a multi-effect pedal, and you can also use it in front or in the loop. But it would be nice to have something like, you know, you need one guitar, one amp. Yeah, I'm going to say HX Stomp. Then you can just make presets that are like, you know, if you need a delay, you need a reverb, you need something. Guitar, my PT Signature, because it's so versatile. Amp, PT15. Done. Easy. Kind of what I actually do. That's my rig. Joe, what's happening there in a super chat? Your guidance on the SL68, 67 questions I've asked in the last couple months. Thank you for that. You're welcome. I've received my Surf 412 with greenbacks and should see my SL68 in a couple months. Cool. And a PS100. You're going to have a great time with that rig. That is a world-class guitar rig you will have there, in my opinion. Thanks, man. Sorry for the congestion, but Dave says, you're back. What's up, man? Back with a bit of a cold, head cold. I'm just in the tail end, you know, when you're getting over it. Little brother. It's not fun having to travel on a plane these days and be coughing. Everybody's like, ah. But I managed it. I found some great cough lozenges that had like menthol and eucalyptus and stuff in them, and I could take one of those and just kill it instantly. It was like, this is great, but I had to have about like 15 of them on the flight. And today I'm not really coughing that much. I'm fine. What's up, Dave? What's up, old buddy? So I'll see you soon. I am back. It's true. Can't believe it. Good to be here. Good to be here. I got the Fright Power Station. It appears I cannot use the effects loop without using it in the operation mode with the Fright Power section. Okay. Sounds like you want to put some effects. Okay, what do you want to do? I don't know. Explain to me your rig a little more. What it is. Explain to me your application, exactly what it is you want to do. Because I just don't quite understand. You can come line level out of the Friat and go right into effects if that's what you want to do. You don't really need to use the loop. You could just come out of, because imagine all the loop is it's like if internally you were coming out of a line out and going into effects, coming out of the effects back into the return. It's just a way to patch in effects. So it's really no different than if you're coming out of the line out of the Friat and going into your effects and then coming stereo out of your effects, like say right into your interface or something. You can do that. So don't really need to use the loop or need a loop in your situation, I don't think. But explain to me a little more if there's more to your setup. Who's Rhett? That's Rhett Schull. He lives out in, he's a guitar player, working guitar player dude that I was talking to. He lives in Atlanta. He works a lot with Rick Beato on his channel. And both those guys are cool guys. Pete says he was at our Newcastle gig. Still buzzing. This time last week, you were on stage. Was that a week ago already? I guess it was. In one way, it seems like a long time, and in another way, it seems like it was yesterday. Newcastle was cool. What was our last gig? The last gig was Harrogate, which was great. Great. Newcastle was really good. And then the last show was really great, and the crowd was so great. And even though it was a weeknight, it was just super fun. Yeah, I enjoyed the Newcastle gig too. Yeah. And Rhett says his studio is going slow. Pick the worst time to try and build a studio. Is that because of like supply chain stuff or things like that, or is it how come? What's happening with that? Interesting. Thank you. Oh, the question about mics. I do the cone cap thing. The 57, been adding an SM7B towards the outside of the cone lately. Yeah, I mean that's kind of what you're doing is exactly what most people do. Blending to 57 in that general position and putting another mic somewhere between the center and the outside, and then blending it in for fullness. And an SM7 is a great choice for that. RE20 is really nice. Really like the 441, which you can hear in my signature package from Two Notes. We used a Sennheiser 441. What a great sounding microphone that is on guitar. So that's another cool one that you could blend with a 57. 441, to be honest, I've got to get one around here because they're not cheap, but I want to get one of the more expensive dynamic microphones. But it is an exceptional sounding mic on guitar all by itself. Really good. Friend of mine, great producer mixer guy named Rick Parker, taught me that many years ago. I'd never seen anybody use it. I only see like Stevie Nicks use it in the 80s on vocals. It's got kind of a long rectangular shaped microphone. It's kind of interesting. The silver sort of dust cover thing. I don't know what you call it on the end. Cool. Back in the 70s, we had super distortions and budget guitars. Got an old Westbury Standard with them made in Japan. Was also budget back then. Yeah, it sure was. But they made some great guitars over there, Japan. They did. One of my favorite guitars to play on the road was my Destroyer. I got a case made for it, and I took it out. And God, it was fun. That guitar has its own fan base at this point, and people dig it when you pull that thing out. Pretty cool. All right. What else we got here? Let's see. I've been using digital recorders for years. What would you recommend as a good audio interface as a novice? Well, I use UA interfaces, the Apollo. They start around $600, I think, something like that, $600-700. They make a cheaper version called the Solo as well. I believe Apollo Solo, something like that. And then they've got a new line of lower priced ones, but I would go for the Apollo. I'm just very happy with mine, and it's compact and does everything I need it to do. I also like Apogee interfaces. So they've got a line of, just take a look at the Apogee stuff and see what you find. For less expensive, I started out with PreSonus, and I thought they were great. Somebody was asking earlier about an Audient interface, and I never responded to that. I've tried one of those as well. I think they're pretty good. Kind of hard to go wrong these days. Focusrite makes nice stuff that's inexpensive. I will just say that in the UA, once I moved to UA, no problems, no dropouts, no like I need to reboot, any kind of like. Back in the days of FireWire interfaces, maybe it was just the style of interface, but FireWire seemed to be like more problematic than, I would say both than USB or, what do we use now? Lightning, or what do they call it? Thunderbolt. That's it. Lightning's for phones. My Thunderbolt interfaces are like rock solid ever since I went to those, which is a number of years ago now. I've been on Thunderbolt 6-7 years at least. And so, yeah. A lot of how well this stuff works is dependent on your computer, of course. Yeah. Any risk of a Peter Thorn guitar giveaway? I would love to do something at some point. Give away something for charity, something. I don't know. Figure it out. Try and partner with my friends at Sir at some point or something. What food are you dying to get? Tacos, man. Now that I'm back. Got to get some tacos later today. It's going to happen. Which distortion pedals do you recommend? I really like it depends on the sound you want. You want a modded plexi, I like Friedman's BE. If you want a more regular sort of Marshall, the small box from Friedman, those are both excellent pedals. The Sir Riot is a really, really good distortion pedal. I like the Riot Mini a lot if you want a small one. Great sort of modern, modded JCM 800 sort of sound. Other distortions that I've tried that I like. I really like the Engine. I think it's just called the Engine from Drybell. It's a treble booster, like a Rangemaster style treble booster in front of a plexi style overdrive. And together they make a great, hard rock distortion. Of course, you can switch them independently and, or use them together. They sound great. So that's a nice pedal too. Those are the ones that came to mind. Oh, cool. Christian says that he stopped in at Guitar Center in Sunset and tried a PT15IR for the first time. That's great. Yeah, it's so nice to have a dealer in town. Because for a long time, there was nobody in LA, really, which just seems like a travesty. But like where you could go, the Boogie store on Sunset Boulevard, which was the Sir dealer for Hollywood, but they didn't carry the amps because it's a Mesa store. So, but they have the guitars, So, but now across the street, when that now gone, I'm sad that store's gone because it was cool. But across the street at Guitar Center, you can now find PT100, PT15, all that good stuff in the Platinum Room. Love the CRS show at Portsmouth. Thank you. Thought you and Tim did Eddie and Alex proud on Hunt for Teachers. Thanks, man. I think that was the first night, wasn't it? It took a little while for me to get comfortable with that song on tour because it's a, frenetic kind of like crazy song or whatever. But like after about the first 2-3 weeks, then it was like I really started looking forward to it every night. I was very comfortable playing that song after a few weeks and just kind of improvising more, with it. And kind of playing around with the licks in between the verses and stuff. And I had a really great time playing it. It was fun. And Tim, he killed it. It was great. And so did Wayne. Wayne was great on the bass. And so did my good friend Rudy on vocals. So what else we got here? What pickup for an 80 Super Strat Duncan JB? Well, that's going to be your kind of mid-bomb, big sustaining. JB's cool, it's a great sound. Duncan Distortion, much more of that hot, big, flat, wide sound. PAF Pro, I don't know. I mean, they kind of like underwound sort of, or DiMarzio Super Distortion. Well, you could do a Super Distortion in the bridge and a PAF Pro in the neck. That would be kind of a classic DiMarzio combo. I don't know about PAF Pro in the bridge. With any of these, okay, so the JB is the one that really stands out there to me as being quite different from, say, a Duncan Distortion or DiMarzio Super D. I think a Duncan Distortion is a similar spec to a Super Distortion. It's a little bit hotter even maybe, but anytime you get those ceramic magnets, to me the sound is big and fat and full. Whereas with the JB, with the Alnico 5 and a 14K wind, it's hot mids, so it's a bit more like a mid peaky kind of, where it really grinds the center of the amp, kind of like, and you get sustaining fat single notes. The Super Distortion, more big, broad, full range sound. That's the way I hear it. Listen to it in the, we didn't do a JB actually. We probably should have, but in that Van Halen shootout video where we did 23 pickups, listen to, say, the Custom, or, a custom is simply a Duncan Custom, but with a Alnico 5, Alnico 2 magnet. So Custom is an Alnico 2 magnet. A Duncan Custom is an Alnico 5 magnet. A Duncan Custom 5 is the exact same pickup with an Alnico 5 magnet. So Alnico 2, 5, ceramic. So if you go watch that video, you can hear the Duncan Custom and the Custom in the same video, and listen to the back-to-back, maybe mark the time stamps or something and listen to me play through both those pickups, and you'll hear right away what I'm talking about, I think, with the difference between Alnico 5 and a ceramic magnet in an otherwise identical pickup. And then that'll give you some sort of, the magnet type, yes, wine matters and the pull pieces matter and all that stuff matters. The magnet type, to me, whether it's ceramic or Alnico, even just that's the big one. You know, very different sound to me. I'm sold on your Thornbucker pickups. I have your model guitar. Great. Thanks, man. Yeah, I love the Thornbucker set's brilliant for me too. Such a good time. You know, just really versatile. What's your favorite food meal while in the UK? Great question. Probably we had an exceptional Indian meal in Birmingham. Close. There's an Indian restaurant there that's quite sort of upscale, and I'm not gonna remember the name of it, but it's right by the Birmingham Town Hall where we played. Literally, kind of behind it, across a little courtyard, and you could find it easily if you were to search on a map for Indian restaurants in that vicinity. It would be 300 feet from the Birmingham Town Hall. That place is slamming. Like, and the service was great. They were so helpful with like recommending things, and I'm gluten-free, so that they were super helpful with that, and it was so good. So that's probably the one meal everybody knows, you know, going for a curry. If you're in the UK, that's what you do. Great Indian food. What else did I have that was really good while I was there? There's a place, once again, being gluten-free makes it tough sometimes, and there's a fish and chips place in Cambridge called the starts with an A, and I'm not gonna remember the name, but now it'll come to me. But they do gluten-free fish and chips with 4 different kinds of batter, like a seaweed something or other batter and something else, and it's just like it's just sort of like it's a nice pub, slightly upscale pub fish and chips, mostly all gluten-free. You can pick your haddock or your cod, whatever you want, and you know, your mushy peas or whatever you want to get. I love that. Good stuff. What's the name of it though? It'll come to me. It's my other memorable meal there. I don't know. Those are the 2 that come to mind. I love Cambridge. It's a nice town, beautiful town. Robert says, "Can you recommend a good lo-fi pedal that really cuts through those nasal mids for soloing?" Well, okay, so there's a couple different lo-fi pedal. I don't know about lo-fi, but like a Sir Cocoa Boost is a mid boost, and it just it's like slicing a hot knife through butter. You hit the pedal on, and it just drives the front end of the amp into more. It's not an overdrive circuit; it's just a mid boost, but it will. If your amp is already like dirty rhythm distortion, it'll just nail it and send it into like this wonderful, clear singing mid-range goodness. You know, where you can get feedback really easy, and it's awesome. So Cocoa Boost is one. A Klon type would be the other, you know, that I would like an Archer or a Tumnus or the Mini Tumnus. All those will get you there with the mid-range. Nasal mids. I mean, to me, Tube Screamers are kind of nasal. Like they're more like centered in slightly higher mid frequency than a Klon to me, and maybe narrower. And they're kind of like they do this narrow thing, but it's cool. Yeah. Okay, what else we got here? Thanks for the super chats, you guys. Appreciate it. What's a good single coil to go with the JB Bridge? You know, one that I tried that I quite liked, and it was interesting. It made a lot of sense once I tried it. It's not the typical choice, but the Jake combo of an SDS1, which is sort of a super distortion single coil. Yeah, and it's a high output single coil. And that sounds really balanced with a JB, and which makes sense because it's a hot single. So, you know, for what it's worth, give that a try. I think Warren uses a quarter pounder from Seymour Duncan with the JB. Isn't that what he uses, Dave? If you're still out there, if you're watching, I think it's a quarter pound single. These guys, the one word guys, Jake, Warren, you guys know who I'm talking about. One name guys, the legends. Other single coils. If I was going to pick a Sir, I mean, I'm really digging the sound of the V63 these days, but it's gonna a JB is pretty hot, so just take into account that you might want to try a Duncan quarter pounder or a SDS1 or something hot like that to balance out with a hotter bridge pickup that's as hot as what you're talking about. Just food for thought. Hot for Teachers sounded great. Thank you. Appreciate that. Always fun to play that too. It's never not fun. I wanted to try APF Pro ever since I read this interview with Greg Howe and Blue Saraceno saying they used them in 88. That's interesting. Makes sense. Both Blues and Greg had kind of like clear, lower gain, like very clear sounds, I think. Yeah. And both great. Always had great tones. I really loved Greg's playing on that How To album. I need to go back and listen to that one of these days again. He was like kind of otherworldly good, And Blues is amazing. He's a sweet dude too. I see him around sometimes. He lives around the hood where I used to live and stuff. We'd run into each other. And really good guy. Make a great living making music for TV and stuff these days. Just bought a 74 JMP 50 cents. Amazing. Cool. It's KT66. That's interesting. Wondering what the sounds might be if I do EL34. Yeah, I mean it's I assume if it's got KT66s, it was maybe there was probably some resistor changes or something made so you could use those tubes. So you'd have to do a little bit of just tweaking, but somebody like Dave Friedman could do that for you and make it work. KT66s are, to me, a little more 6L6, I mean, in their sound. They still have I don't know if that's the right, it's not like I'm an expert in it or anything. But you know what I'm saying. They were a little bit more of a Brit replacement for the 6L6, like the what came originally in a JTM 45, of course. And kind of interchangeable with the 6L6, I think. Maybe with some, like I say, resistor changes to get the bias right and all that. Yeah. What else we got here? Let's see. We got 353 people online. Thanks for being here, you guys. I didn't know who'd show up this week because I know I got to build it back a little bit after being away and doing the weird times and all that. So I'll also say if anybody's watching this after the fact and there's a whole bunch of ads, I do fix it. I have to go in and after the show uploads to YouTube, which always takes a few hours, the computer just places like 4 million ads in the show, and then I have to go out and trash them all manually. Every week I have to do that. So people get mad sometimes. This is unwatchable. Too many ads. And then I just go fix it. So is there going to be a higher wattage PT15? Well, we were talking about all kinds of stuff, but it's not going to be the exact same amp. It's going to be different, actually relatively different as far as the circuits and, be giving more options actually for dialing it in. Similar in, I want it to be just as versatile, if not more, and wider range of, and just do something new and different because the PT100 has been out. I mean, we're getting close to, when did it release the silver face one? 2014, something like that. It's coming up on 8 years ago, so it's like, time for switch it up a little bit. So that will happen. But that said, I mean, I just used the PT15 all tour and it was so great. It sounds so good. Same one I used on the last tour and kicks ass. Have you heard the new Inviolate by Steve Vai LP? I've heard a few things and everything I've heard is amazing. Like really, really, really good. So I need to put some time into it and go listen to the whole thing because I haven't done that yet. But what I've heard, I love. Really melodic and beautiful playing. And I think he's kind of like, I think I mentioned on a show recently that I got to go by his studio recently and hang out with him for, 45 minutes or something like that. Because he wanted me to show him how to do something with a certain piece of gear or whatever. So I went over there and he played me actually a couple tunes that I think are on the record. And which was just what an honor. It was a pleasure. He played them for me sitting right at his console. It was so great. And he did mention, I remember him saying at one point that day, he's like, yeah, I kind of got like no fucks left to give sort of thing. Like I'm just doing kind of what I want now and just sort of, which is what we want out of artists, ironically, right? Like You know, and he sounds to me like he's that, like, it's hard to think of a guy that is still pushing and forging ahead. I mean, the Hydra guitar thing, I mean, even just that, like, I need to do something different, you know, and figure out how to make music in a different way that's where I'm not repeating myself. He never wants to repeat himself, it seems like. He always wants to move forward. And with all that said, he seems to be maybe slowing down a bit, like in his, you know, he's more like there's a little less flash and a little more Jeff Beck going on in his playing, and I hear that from what I've heard on the record, which I love. Like, and I think that's amazing, and I'm just like all 100% behind that. I played it for James Cole, actually, the other guitar player in the Classic Rock Show, the MD, and he listened to it, and his first response within 10 seconds was like, "Oh, I quite like this." He said, "You know, this is not what I expected from him." And I knew what he meant was I expect flash from Steve Vai and like technical stuff. Yeah, if you're the, you know, if you don't really, because of course he's much deeper than that. But if you're not like a huge fan, or like, I shouldn't say you don't like him, but if it's just like you don't know much of his catalog or whatever, you're like, oh, Steve Vai is the shredder guy, right? And you know, so I've traditionally in the past been a real fan of like Blue Powder, or what's the song for The Boy from Seattle, like that was off of can't remember the name of the record that was on, but where he's blue on the cover, you know. I love that kind of side of his playing, and there's a lot of that going on from what I've heard on the new record. You know, it's just like melodic and the tone's really nice. It's just like, this is cool, you know. So kudos to Steve. You know, it's like he just keeps pushing forward and doing like different things, and yet maybe even becoming more musical or something. I don't know. It's really cool. Missed a couple of super chats here, so I'm going to get to those. He's a lovely guy too. Robert says, "Can you recommend a good?" Oh, I did that. I didn't miss that one. Where's the ones I missed? Here they are. Welcome back to LA. Thanks, man. Perfect weather. Yeah. What's the story with your new Sir Proto? All gear purchases on hold until I know more. Well, so it's something that you know seems like a logical moving forward sort of thing. And like I say, that's a prototype that we made that still hasn't, you know, it's not like it's in production yet, but I'll tell you the basic idea. It's that I have no idea that guitar produced how much it would cost. I would think it would be less because it's an alder body as opposed to mahogany with a maple top, and it's great binding. Doesn't have any of that. It's a solid color, right? So just it's a standard body shape with an alder. It's a maple neck that has a new shape that I'll tell you more about later, but it's not as skinny as the one on my current signature model. It's from a neck that I've got on another Sir guitar that was hand shaped by John, that was made in the mid 2000s, and it's a nice, really nice kind of vintage Strat feeling neck. So that's the neck shape, and we digitized it off that. And it's got an ebony fingerboard, and I'm doing that for the look mainly. Never tried an ebony fingerboard on a guitar like that, but I wanted to try it because I wanted a real dark fingerboard with the silver of the guitar. So a lot of people, when they first saw that guitar, they thought it was the EMG guitar, and I just replaced the pickups or something. But then, of course, on closer inspection, you can see it's got a different pick guard. It's not the same guitar. So when I got that EMG guitar, I liked the look so much. I was like, I should do this color combo on this prototype. So we made the guard out of the same stuff. John spent a lot of time drawing the pick guard on the new guitar. You can see it's not a traditional shape. It's got its own thing, really getting the lines right. I love how it flows, and it looks just beautiful. It's got the Wilkinson bridge that I've been using for a while. The bridge pickup is new and different. That's all I'll say right now. I'll tell you more about it later. But essentially what we're talking about is a Sir standard here, alder body, maple neck, unique neck shape, unique bridge pickup. That's just a killer guitar that's hum single, because sometimes I like the traditional single coil in the neck. The split single in my current signature is awesome too, and you know I love both models. So James actually got one of my the existing signature model in ocean turquoise, and he owns one now. So we got to get some cool photos, and I'm sure that I can share soon and stuff, but where he's playing that one and I'm playing this new one, and so in the band it looked really cool. I thought, on stage to have both the guitars out there represented. Thank you for the super chat as well. And thank you, Modern Vintage. Thoughts on an SL68 versus new Marshall 1959 hand-wired. Dave Friedman always says they get most of it right, but some things, on the hand-wired. It's a great amp. I mean, I think it'd be a terrific, if you found one, it was a good deal. It'd be a terrific amp to start with as a sort of donor for mods. I don't think he's crazy about the transformers they use on the hand-wired series. But your mileage may vary. They sound pretty damn good, for what they are. Now, an SL68, the thing about it is you've got the low power option in there with the amazing, it's a Haber transformer that is like the output transformer, but then also the power transformer, and it's got the dual voltage thing spec, having a built-in variac, so you can get your low voltage thing, and that is huge to me. That's a massive feature because I really love the sound on 90 volts. That's the way I use it, like most of the time, almost all the time. So not having that and needing to use a variac is a major hassle to me, and only being able to use it once you buy a set for 90 volts. Major hassle to me. So, yeah. I don't know. What do you guys think? Discuss amongst yourselves. Plus, the master on the SL68 is great. You can turn it down to like 6 or 7, and it's great for a club at that point. If you run it on the low power setting and then you turn the master down to 7, just down a little bit, slots right in there with a drummer now. It sounds perfect. Can't do that with a 1959 hand-wired. So, yeah. What else? Noble's ODR1, great alternative to Tube Screamer. Very different sound to me. Tube Screamer is mids, cuts bass. ODR1 is relatively full and flat sounding to me. Much more like it's much more of what a Tube Screamer would be. like if you turned up a tube amp, a Fender or something, that's the Noble's ODR1. It's actually more of an accurate, thing to maybe call it a tube sound. That I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like ODR1 is a natural sounding sort of ampy distortion in its own way. You know what I mean? Whereas a Tube Screamer sort of sounds like a Tube Screamer. It doesn't necessarily sound like screaming tubes to me. I think you and Vi are the greatest ambassadors representing our community. Thanks, man. I can't hold a candle to that guy. I mean, he's put out an incredible body of work, and he's I'm just lucky to to even be here on Earth at the same time to get to listen to what he comes up with. He's amazing. I have a massive respect for him. I really do. And yeah. So, hey, that's not nice. You just don't hang out in the right hoods, dude. Gotta go to the right places. That's all. I'll show you. LA's a mixed bag. It's complicated. The thing about LA is that it's like 25 different cities all in one. So you just need to hang out in the right of those 25. There's 11 of those that are great. And some other ones where you probably don't want to go. You don't want to hang out in City of Industry. Anything with gardens after it. Sorry if you live there, but Bell Gardens sounds like a nice place, maybe. Well, it might be better now. I don't know. Hawaiian Gardens sounds beautiful, right? Hawaiian Gardens. Don't come to LA on vacation and think you're going to go to Hawaiian Gardens and it's going to be. It's not going to be what you want. Am I right, LA people? Do I know what I'm talking about? John Robson, guitarist, sent me a super chat. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Were you the fella that was at the gig the other day? I think you were, right? Didn't you come to a show? And I think I saw you. I think if you're who I think you are, I think I saw you out there. I know who you were, where you were, etc. And thanks for coming to the gig. If I've got that right, I think I do. I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. Let's see. What do we got here? Questions. Does the condition of the battery make a difference on active pickups? It's not a stupid question. I would um they're probably like really low draw, like really low current draw, and I'm gonna go with probably no as long as it's good. If it's dying, you're probably maybe then you're gonna hear some weird stuff. But when I think about the battery in my bass, it either works or doesn't. Like my bass, all of a sudden, is just like, oh, battery's dead, got to charge, and it lasts a super long time. Now that's a lithium battery that's rechargeable. It's got like my bass actually, my Warwick actually has a USB jack on the back where you plug it in to charge the battery. But I don't really think that's a thing. So you're just gonna want. It wouldn't be a good thing if the battery's dying or dead, I would say. Yeah. I'm playing my PT15 through 11240 cab with well broken V30. What would changing to G12H75 do for the tone? A 75 is a very different sound. They have this kind of grindy, cardboardy sound to me. How do you describe the sound? It's not a bad thing. I've never tried a 75 with a PT, so I don't know. With a 15, I've tried the PT100 with a full 75 loaded cabinet. Actually sounded quite good. I used it on tour with Michelle Polnareff for a whole year. A Marshall cabinet, just traditional 1960B cab with H75s in it. And they were, I think, G12H or the G12T 75. I don't know. The standard 75. You know what I'm saying? I thought it sounded pretty good, really. The speakers surprise me sometimes because they get a bad rap. I think Yngwie likes them, right? Aren't they his speaker of choice? People complain about them and whatever, but not bad. Eddie Van Halen even liked them with the Soldano, I believe, when he I think he had a Soldano cabinet with those loaded in it, and he preferred that amp with that cabinet when he got his first Soldano, I think, around that time. That's what Friedman's told me anyway. Yeah. People that haven't spent a lot of time in LA have no idea how big it actually is. Yeah, I mean, you get a bit of an impression just flying in for the first time, but it's massive. And what is LA? Are we going to include Santa Monica? Because that's actually its own city. Are we going to include Burbank? Because that's its own city with its own fire department and city hall and police. And, so when you lump LA into like Beverly Hills is its own city within LA, really, it's just crazy, LA's a weird place because of that, where it's all, you've got these, yeah, I'll tell you what, you go to Santa Monica, and Santa Monica is its own city with its own fire department, trash collection, police, whatever, it's right. And Rose Avenue, which is the border of South Santa Monica with Venice, you can feel the difference between when you are in Santa Monica and then cross over Rose Avenue and you are instantly in more of an urban, it's like, it just gets a little more gnarly when it comes to, the garbage or the whatever, it's like, just LA is a behemoth bear of a city to try and deal with from a, city managerial government, all that aspect. Whereas Santa Monica is a much smaller, more maintainable. So is Beverly Hills, right? In these places. So, you notice that like within LA. So it's like you can be in Santa Monica, literally cross a block, and it's like feels a little different down here, like because you are technically actually in a different city, but it all interconnects. Like I say, Burbank is like traveling back to the 50s or something, like the Cleavers or something, like it's literally like these cute little streets and houses, kind of middle class, neighborhood with, it's very clean. It's very super chill, almost maybe boring, some people might say. Pasadena, Pasadena's a little bit bigger. There's parts of Pasadena that are a bit, and it's its own city, and it really actually feels separate because of where it is geographically in LA, and that's where I live. Nice city, beautiful old homes. There's rougher parts of Pasadena too, and then there's really beautiful, nice parts of Pasadena. Then there's the city of South Pasadena, which is its own, it's like, and they all just connect. So it's this bear of a city. It's massive, and it's not. You can't just be like LA is a shithole. No, I mean some parts of it are absolutely stunning. Some parts of it are like you don't want to go. You know, that's for sure. So it's a complicated place, and I had to learn that when I first moved. And I'm still getting a handle on neighborhoods and stuff that I've never even been to here, being here over 30 years. It's that big and crazy, you know. So Modern Vintage says thoughts on a shank style rig with a dry cab, stereo wet to monitors, in-ear monitors, DAW versus wet dry wet rigs for tone recording for the fun factor. The fun factor is the main reason to do it, you know. Shank's rig is wild. It's 4 amp heads, I think, and a rack that is as tall as I am. With just, I mean, I understand it and exactly what it does, but I mean, you wouldn't want to be the one to haul it or maintain it, you know, set it up. If you can pay somebody to do that, then that's a good idea. Is it amazing? Yeah, it's amazing. You know, it's amazing. It's huge. Pedal board is like, it's massive, you know. Because he's got basically instant access on his pedal board to all his effects as well as presets, you know, so you can turn anything on and off within the preset. It was the days of the Bradshaw thing, you know, where you had the huge pedal board that had an instant access switch for every single effect. Now it's kind of like everybody's concerned with small, right? Oh, I want to be able to carry it. People think my pedal board's big. My pedal board is not big. You know, look at what Steve Stevens uses or Shanks, you know, and the size of the board or what, you know, a lot of people were doing back in the day. It's like my pedal board is tiny compared to that. So with a Musicom Lab switcher that's only this wide, you know, kind of like that, and you got to get to the multiple pages in order to be able to switch effects in and out sometimes. And, you know, so you use buttons to go to page up or page down to get to be able to access things. It's not as easy or as quick. You can do it, and it works good for me. I know how to use it now, but that ability to instant access anything is amazing. Wet dry wet, man. I mean, to be honest, like John does his thing, and he's his own. If I was doing John's gig, I probably wouldn't be doing exactly what he's doing because he's in a band with a keyboard player, and you know, Phil. You know, when you got 2 guitar players and keyboards, anytime there's that going on, I almost feel like it's better to have a mono rig. And the stereo thing is really fun in your own in-ears and stuff like that, but it's like for front of house, it's like I learned that playing with Don Henley, where it was a big band. I had some big wet dry wet rig, and it was miking, you know, 3 cabinets and doing that whole style of wet dry wet, and it was like felt like I was getting lost in the mix, to be honest, when I listened to show recordings. And like maybe the sound guy didn't know what to do with me with a setup like that. And so I moved to a more simple rig. And actually the last time I ever played with Don, I used mono. I used a P215, which was great because it was a perfect volume for playing with him. And it was just like, okay, this is simple. This is easier. It's easier. It's less stuff to worry about. It's enough to worry about on a gig like that, you know, like you don't need, the recordings were all done originally with combo amps and things, you know, when you think about Hotel California or whatever, it's like the tones aren't, you know, it's the other thing. Like now John Shanks made the records, you know, I mean, he like at least the recent stuff for the last 20 years or stuff that whatever he's doing with Bon Jovi, I mean, he's the producer. So it's like, he knows the guitar tones and stuff and what he wants to recreate, played a lot of the parts on the records. So who am I to say? But it is a lot, you know. It's a big rig. Is it amazing? Yes. You know, crazy. Pasadena is beautiful. I do think so too. Very nice town. Great town. Really nice place to live if you want to be in the LA area, but you don't necessarily want to be in LA all the time. It's its own thing. It really is its own city. I think I mentioned before on the show, I saw Rob DeLeo out there from Stone Temple Pilots once. He was walking around with his son. I was like, hey, man, what are you doing out here? And he lives in Palos Verdes. And he's like, oh, I just like to come out here sometime because it reminds me of the East Coast. It looks like an East Coast city. I like exactly. It's like a nice, it's like being in, I don't know, maybe Albany or like, you know, like a city on the East Coast, not a big city, not a small city, just kind of like a nice medium size, you know, town that you can walk around, go shop, get some food, whatever, simple, not too crazy, sort of safe, you know. New York City's the same. Yeah, New York is like, that's a whole bear, right? That's like, you know, where the neighborhoods and the You know, you need to know where to go in order to hang. You might have a bad experience if you don't know where to go, you know. Metalhead Hippie says he hasn't heard much from Brittany in a few months. How's she doing? Brittany is actually headed out on tour very soon, and she's got multiple gigs going out this year. So she's starting to take off as a drummer, pro musician in her own right. She's touring with a band called Royal the Serpent for like a month, and then she's going out with King Mala, really great pop artist that she's playing with for a couple of weeks. So she's gonna be gone for about 6 weeks, coming up touring with 2 different bands, back-to-back tours. Crazy. Yeah. Only in Burbank could I have lunch with Jay Leno because he asked to share a table. That guy's cool, man. Every time I've met him multiple times, because I've done the Tonight Show more than 15 times, I think, in my life. And back when he was doing his whole run there was mainly when I was doing a lot of TV in the US and stuff. And he was always so nice. And we had, I think I've mentioned before, we had good talks about cars and things. And it was just really, just struck me as a genuinely nice person, easy to talk to. And you do see him around, even just driving around Burbank, driving to, if he would be on his way to NBC or whatever, and you see him in some old Packard or something, some beautiful car, always with a different car. It's kind of like Neil Sean is with guitars, is Jay Leno with cars, different one every day, seemingly, living the dream. Speaking of California, have you heard the new Red Hot Chili Pepper song? I did, and it's really good, isn't it? I think it's great. Great guitar sounds. Maybe my favorite solo I've ever heard from John Frusciante. Really cool fuzz solo, just nice melodic playing, and just really, really a great song, actually. What you want out of a Chili Peppers song, it's all there. And really good. I'm not like a huge Chili Peppers fan, but I do really appreciate them, and I appreciate that they're a band that, at least in that incarnation of the band, with the 4 guys that do it now, that is the classic, to me, sort of quintessential lineup, right? I would say, even though they did great things with other people too. That said, I really like what they did with Navarro on that one record. That's some of actually my favorite songs by them. I love all of you. Hurt by the cold. That song's great, man. Really nice song. That was him, right? That was when Navarro did the band, right? Wasn't the album One Hot Minute, I think? Did you ever have a dual rectifier in your gear rotation? Yeah, I used a 3-channel dual rectifier in the 40-foot Echo days. So I made a record 2002 with a band called 40-foot Echo that you can find on iTunes and stuff. And the grindy tones you hear on that record are my dual rectifier. And I also used my Top Hat Implexador, which I still have on that record on a couple tunes. But other albums are almost all dual rectifier. On the tour, I ended up taking a Recto Randall module with an RT250 power amp. So I had a rack rig, and I would use the RT250 power amp and then 4 of the modules for different sounds. But yeah. People are a lot nicer in LA than most people assume. Once again, it can be really dependent on where you hang out. Like if all you do is go to West Hollywood, you're probably going to get kind of a whatever experience. Not that West Hollywood's bad or anything, but hanging out in Pasadena is a completely different experience than hanging out in West Hollywood. Hanging out in Santa Monica is its own, Santa Monica can be a little entitled. Something would be, there'll be like, soccer moms in their Lululemons walking their poodles or whatever in front of your car, and they'll just walk out in the street because I live in Santa Monica and nobody will hit me. It's like, you should probably take into account that, there's not a stop sign and I'm coming at you very quick in my car. I don't know. I've just thought things like that before. People tend to just, it's very, the sense of entitlement once people make it to West LA is kind of funny to me. If you're living out there, you're like, I had a guy scream at me on the bike path in Santa Monica once. I'd stopped to do something. It was a great big wide bike path, but because I'd stopped, he was mad. I was like fixing my pant leg or something was caught. And I was like, so I'd stopped. So I was blocking a little bit of that side of the path, but I was going to go again in a second. He's like, get out of the way. What are you doing? I live here. I live here. This is my bike path. This is my beach. This is my town. I live here. I spent like 6 years living in Santa Monica. How did he know I didn't live there? I didn't at the time, but I'd only recently moved. I live here. I mocked him pretty hardcore. Oh, I live here. Fuck off. Okay, sorry. Super chat. I'm missing tons of questions. Sorry. I'm having fun doing this today. I thought I'd be more jet lagged, and I am, and I'm stuffed up from this cold, but I'm actually feeling pretty flying right now. A lot of coffee this morning. I'll tell you what, a lot of coffee. Informed by your recent VH gear videos, I believe the pickup Eddie used in the Destroyer on Van Halen was in fact a stock Duncan custom and not a super distortion. Could very well be. They are very similar. I'd love to see that. The Filth LA. Send me a link to your video. You can email me. There's an email link on my website. That's the easiest one to find. I'd like to watch your video, though. I don't disagree. Why would have Seymour have said in that ad in '79, Duncan Custom, Van Halen, right? In, which Eddie was pissed off, like, don't use my name in ads. But I was always like, why would he say that, if he didn't use a Duncan Custom? So I was never sure if that was in the Super Strat or, he said that he doesn't remember what pickup was in the guitar when he did Van Halen 1. Certainly sounds like could be a Super Distortion or Duncan Custom, or they're both the same. They're both like a hot ceramic 13.8, 14K ceramic magnet matched coil. The difference is the pole pieces. So that's it in those two pickups. One's in a Marzio, one's in Duncan, but they're so similar otherwise, So, yeah. So you want to live on top of the San Andreas Fault. Seems like a good move. Listen, man, we all got to go at some time, and it's warm here, and, I like to ride my bike at the beach, and call me crazy. I do what I do, and I just live my life, and I'm, we're punk rock about it, aren't we? We don't care. If there's an earthquake, I'll get sucked into the ground in a big hole. And maybe people will care, maybe they won't. It might be a quiet day in the guitar world that day. Did you hear that guy from YouTube got sucked into a big hole in LA? Yeah, what's that? Oh, anyways, moving on. Yeah. You would hate driving around cyclists in Copenhagen. Oh, man. The cyclists, that's a whole nother game, riding bikes in Denmark, as well as in the Netherlands and stuff, like with your own bike lanes, and you got lights for the lanes, and everybody's very... when I rode a bike there, I had to quickly discover, this is like driving a car. I need to be on top of my situation. John says, come to Vancouver. Is that where you are? I didn't know you were in Vancouver. I am coming up there to do a little bit of stuff in April, actually, at one point. I love Vancouver, man. It's a nice town. Thought about moving there many times. Still may. We will see. First time here. Say hi to me. Hi. What's up, Keith? How you doing? Thanks for being here. Okay, let's go back to guitar gears. Do you ever split your Thornbuckers? All the time. Position 2 split on my PT Signature guitar is one of my favorite sounds. I love the sound. Works great. They split just terrific. Agreed. Oh, yeah. Caps. I have no idea. I use a cap resistor on, if that's what you're talking about, but I think you're probably talking about tone pots. I don't know, man, because I have actually started using my tone pot a little more recently. With the classic rock show, two things I would do is when we would play the song Hotel California, you may have heard it. When we would play that song, I'm using the Thornbucker bridge pickup in my Alt T. So, kind of just PAF bridge, but I'll roll the tone down to 7. That sounded really great for that song to me, playing the Joe Walsh parts. And then we did this song Money for Nothing. You may have heard it in the set. And I was using the new guitar, the silver guitar, in the split position. So split, pick up in the bridge, in the middle V63 single coil, those two on at the same time. And then I rolled the tone down to 7 once again. James was playing the main guitar part. in that song. So the stuck wah, the classic part, but there's also a second guitar that's a similar sound. And I found I could get a great kind of, the in-between strat sound, but with distortion, and then roll the tone down, and it had a really cool, wasn't really wah, but it's like that slightly darker wah, sound. It was pretty cool using the tone control. So I'm getting a little more into tone controls lately. But I don't think that caps, I don't know about all that, paper and oil, it's going to be this cap or that cap and how different they sound, because I almost never use it. How many of you guys use your tone controls to the point where you would hear the difference in a cap? Maybe, of course, the value, you'll hear the difference, but I'm just talking about the, the type of cap on the guitar. I don't know if that's a thing, because it's generally my tone controls are on 10, and generally they're kind of out of the circuit. Peter says, my friend's Dave Navarro. That's right. I like that tune. Yeah, good one. He's a unique, cool guitar player, I think. It's supposed to be a very nice guy as well. I've never really spoken with him, but he's supposed to be a nice gentleman. Nick Purdy says, coffee money. Thanks, man. Thanks for the super chat. You ever consider putting PT15 IR through something like a Power Cab Plus? I've done it. Here in the room here, anytime I've done a video of different, like there was this cab from Italy that I made a video of, used the PT15 for that. I think I also, I've done a few full range things. I think maybe the head rush speakers, when I did the 108 video for that, didn't I do that with the PT15? I think I did here in the room. It's cool. It's not dissimilar to what oh, you're saying the Power Cab Plus with digital speaker modeling options on top of that amp. I like the Line 6 cabs. I think I just prefer to do IRs which is all they do anyway. I mean, yeah. What you're saying is basically what I would do anyway, which is add an IR to the sound, but I can do it within the amp, and then just use a full range monitor, because my amp, with the PT15, is the one amp that has that unique capability where you've got 16 different options for IRs in there. So then you can just do that full range. I mean, that's essentially sort of what I, if you're using a set of monitors and you're listening to your guitar back, and I've speaker simulated the sound going to the PA and the monitors, and it's kind of like my rig. I had I'm lucky, because the rig on this last tour was amp and 412. So I get feedback and stuff. No mic on the cabinet though. And then going out to the PA, I've got the speaker simulation going. And then I've got wedges, 2 wedges, quite powerful, coming at me with the speaker simulated sound if I want it. Didn't actually end up using that though, cabinet in there. Did in my in-ears though, of course. So sending, some people were like, why do you have monitors and in-ears? And it's like, because I'm a diva. Because I can. So, are you playing live when you come to Vancouver? No, filming something. A guitar course happening in April. Speaking of disasters, are you worried about World War III? That's shifting topics radically away from what we generally talk about on this show. But long story short, yes. Do you ever get stage fright? Yeah, not anymore as much. I went through a period not that long ago where I was having more actually than I'd ever had. I don't know if it's lack of confidence, but I feel like it's good to talk about. I know my tricks now. I developed coping mechanisms for dealing with any kind of stage fright. My main one is you want to be as comfortable on stage as you can with the sound. So that's the main one. And one thing I know that makes me uncomfortable on stage is hearing myself in in-ear monitors too loud and too present, and maybe without a great, like the sound is never great in in-ears. I don't feel like it's like right here, right there, every note you play. It doesn't really sound like that in the house. And it doesn't sound like that on stage. If you've got an amp on stage coming out of your amp, you hear the blend of the room and everything. It's much more complimentary. This thing is like a little analytical, like hearing, it's like if you're public speaking in a room and you're just talking into a microphone, there's no monitors, you hear your voice reverberating around the room and stuff. But imagine if you like, this is all you heard right here. And it was like right here in your ears. And you'd be like, you hear every breath, everything you say. It's like, that's what it sounds like coming out of your guitar, like every little pick scrape and sound. And it's like, that's not really representative of what the audience is hearing. They're hearing like this PA and the reverberant sound. And it's like all those little details, those tend to mess with my head a little bit. So when I've come to terms with the fact that I try and get a great in-ear mix and as good as I can and stuff, but I really, and it's not hard for me, I just need to sometimes not have those things in my ears. And I need to just hear the amp, which is why can you just give me one wedge and some drums and trust me, it'll all be okay, and when I can do that, which is more often than not these days, I'm very comfortable. So that helps. The in-ear thing's always a struggle for me. Gotten better recently with those ASI in-ears I've been using with the little mics in them and everything, but it's always somewhat of a struggle. Now, that said, if I'm having any kind of like one thing I like to do, and this is part of why I like not having in-ears, is sometimes I like to get away from my sound a little bit. So my position on stage, and I think we all do this, right? Like if you're hearing a little too much of yourself, I walk back from the cabinet. Like if my cabinet, I should say I walk back because my cabinet was actually facing in from the side of the stage like this, not behind me on this tour. It was like over here and kind of coming across the stage. So I could just back up a bit towards the keyboard riser and not hear too much of myself. I like mix myself. So I'm not hearing too much direct signal coming right into my left ear off the amp. And then it would be like, all right, that's a perfect amount of guitar. Now I can hear the drums and it sounds more like probably what it sounds like out front, a bit of a swim of a mix. So that's one thing I could do. And then I lay it instantly. What happens is you start to lay into the guitar more when you can't hear yourself so loud in every little, detail. Like the in-ears is the worst. Next worst would be being right beside your amp and it's too loud and you're like, it's not really a pleasant playing experience. But if you're a little off axis, you know what I'm talking about, how good a Marshall amp or whatever sounds off axis. And then if you get right in front of it, it's like, but off axis, it's just a really great, fun sound to play. So yeah. So I do all those things. And then the next thing I do, if I'm having any kind of anxiety or stage, whatever, I think about a few guitar players that I consider to be very primal and very exciting. Not necessarily like the most brilliant or anything, but with the right attitude. And one of them is Jack White. I think about Jack White and the way that he plays the guitar and approaches the instrument. And I go, just do that. Embody that right now if you're feeling nervous, and that instantly resets me because of his attitude. I really appreciate his attitude on the guitar. It's almost primitive and very sort of punk rock and blues based, punk based, with a lot of attitude, and it's explosive and kind of exciting. Once again, it's not even about whether or not you like the music that he plays or anything. It's more about his approach. And I just go, do that. And just by thinking of that, now I'm in the right zone, but I play like me. So does that make sense? So it's like connect with your rock and roll spirit animal, and it'll help you, to get past anything. If you're having a moment of fear on stage. And I also say to myself sometimes, don't suck. I also remember when I used to play in the studio a lot, when I was working for Linda Perry, I used to be able to get into this certain headspace where it'd be like, if I was playing kind of shit or like timid or something or whatever, I'd just go, come on, like rise, like concentrate. I'd tell myself certain things in my head. And then I just get more present in the moment and like force yourself into the moment, be present. Don't be timid, play the guitar, you know what I mean? And then like I get through the take and be like, that was a good take. Like, I kind of have to work at it mentally sometimes. Like it's not a natural thing for me all the time. So do you hear a difference between same PF with and without covers? There is a small difference. We've measured the difference actually with Thornbuckers. Part of why we use the nickel covers on the Thornbuckers is because it's a very, very small difference. John told me what the difference is at one point in some sort of figure, and I don't remember if it was, I'd have to ask him, but the nickel covers barely will change the sound. Just like a small, you might, especially with gold covers, you're going to notice high end loss. So gold covers are the biggest offender. Chrome next, not as bad, kind of fine, really. Nickel silver, the most of being like an open coil pickup. Nickel silver or just nickel? Nickel. Nickel. Sorry, coughing. I'm a mess. What else we got here? Let's see. I should go faster, right? Because you guys are asking lots of questions. I'm not going fast enough. Sorry, Canadian. Sorry. Now that music is picking up after COVID, looking to upgrade my in-ears, what do you use? So I'm using these ASIs. And ASI is an active thing with microphones in it so that I can blend in ambient sound, which I really quite like. Shure's, generally speaking, are fine for generics. They're $100 or something. You can get the generic ones. A lot of people buy them as spares or just use them anyway, and they seem to like them. I think they're just a single driver, or maybe they're dual. I don't know. But one thing I will say is you will notice a difference if you move to a mold where you go to an audiologist, you get a mold made of your ear and you get some custom molds, and because they tend to seal better. So one thing with in-ears that you want to keep in mind is that a good seal is important for bass response. So you don't necessarily need a ton of drivers or anything like that for bass response. I'm not a big fan of 3 drivers is fine or whatever, or even 2. But the mold fitting your ear and molding to your will just the, what do we call that? It's once it's molded in your ear and makes a good seal, and the transfer of bass into your ear is better then. So that's a little tougher to do on a generic when it's just those little foam tips or whatever, and you're stuffing it in there. I don't think that, generally speaking, they sound as good because of that. So you might want to get some molds done no matter what. I'm having a hard time getting the tone I want from a Strat bridge pickup. Keep adjusting the height, can't get it just right, either too thin or too much. Do you have a tone control on your pickup? Because I have a tone control on all my Strat bridge pickups. So find the height that you like, and if you find it too thin, then roll the tone down and see if it just warms it up a bit. And if that equates to thickness for you, less top end might be all you need. So that's the number one thing, is put the bottom tone control is generally the tone that's on the middle of the neck. I think it's the tone that's on the neck is the bottom one, generally speaking, on a standard wired Strat, but it's a common mod to just move it so that it works on the bridge instead. So you can roll down the tone to like 7, and that'll be helpful. Yeah, I was in the 74 quake and the Northridge quake and half a dozen others. Yeah, I was in the Northridge quake and one before that. There was a quake out somewhere around Pasadena in the early 90s. Northridge, I was there for that. And so, these things happen in LA. I mean, it could be pretty scary. I mean, if there's a, if there's a 9.0 or something, it's not going to be good. But yeah, we got, all kinds of problems these days, don't we? So the what ifs. What else we got here? There's another super chat from Christopher. Thank you, dude. Thanks for the super chat. Appreciate that. Purchased your and Dave's 2 Notes Dyne IR cab packs, and they sound incredible. That's awesome. Might sell the aux and get the Captor X. Dyne IR seem more realistic. The aux has its own sound. You can use the aux with and disable the speaker sims. Do you know that? So you might just want to do that and then do the 2 Note stuff within Wall of Sound within your computer. You at that point don't really have to spend any more money, I don't think. So you could use your aux, because the aux has nice effects in it and things. So if you like the sound of the aux, just disable the speaker sims, go into your computer, and on the channel, try Wall of Sound. That's one thing to think about. Hopefully that is maybe worth the price of admission for your super chat. Give that a try. I can't remember in the aux right now exactly where it is, but you'll figure it out. Just look at how to disable the speaker simulators in the aux, and just use it as your load box. It's a very, very similar load to the Captor. As a matter of fact, I think it's basically identical. The load, the physical, in the aux, that thing right there. This thing right here. Same load as this thing right here. So technically, you've got the gear you need right now to do the exact same sound. That you wouldn't need to buy, sell, do anything. Oh yeah, I like some of the things in the I really like the AC30 cabinet and the 410 in the aux. I like the greenback cab pretty good too in the aux. But the AC30 is fantastic in there. I think sounds really good. Mind you, how about my Celestion Blue impulses? Come on now, that are in the Tunos pack. Good, right? Come on. Those turn out great. I'm really happy with the way they sound. Okay. What else we got here? Let's see. What's my top 5 best UAD plugins? PT100. Ones I use all the time, man. Let me think. I mean, some of the channel strips, like the API, have been really great for me. The SSL, the Neve 1073, the 1176, great. I actually, the LA2A is to kind of die for. The gray one, they all sound good, but I use the gray one all the time on bass guitar. The B15, I'm going to give you more than 5, but the B15 for UAD, the just beautiful on like any kind of bass that's maybe not metal. The GK, very different sounding and also great. GK 800 bass amp sim. Echoplex is really nice. The UA delay is nice. You can do stereo delay, mod delay with it. What else I really like for UAD plugins? The SSL channels, the SSL bus compressor, used on almost everything I do. On the master bus. Anything else? Try the AKG Spring Reverb, really nice. Capital Chambers for reverb, really nice. Ocean Way Studios, really nice. CPU Hog, like the UAD CPU, but works great. Okay. Did you use a power supply for the quad cortex other than the stock one? No, I just used the stock one. Easiest, just do that and then wire it. Just kind of put it underneath the pedal board, or on the tour that I just did, I just had the quad cortex sitting on the floor, actually. I will tell you one thing that happened one night with the quad cortex, and this is something to consider if you're a quad cortex user out there. One night I had a water bottle kind of explode. They had these stupid tops on them and I couldn't get it off. And I had to, you got 3 bars to get, and you just want to drink of water. So you're trying to pick it up off your amp, struggling. And I squeezed the bottle at the same time the top came off, and I blew water all over my face and all over my shirt and all over the floor behind me. And a bunch of water went on, it went everywhere, all over my guitar and all over the screen of the quad cortex. Well, it's a touch screen. So you ever get water on the screen of your iPhone? It starts freaking out. So yeah, that happened. And the quad cortex, I'm playing and it's like freaking out. And not freaking out. It didn't actually change sounds, but it like was going on different screens. And then I was trying to play the song after that, and like just flustered. And I'm looking down, and the quad cortex is on some different screen that I've never seen before from the water incident. So that happened. And then I had to play Spirit of Radio next by Rush after that. And I remember getting on the mic and saying, well, I managed to dump an entire bottle of water all over my face right before that last song. How was that? Now let's play Spirit of Radio. Here we go. What is your most disappointing moment musically, or the thing you regret never happening, or something that hasn't happened yet and you wish it would? There's been a number of different disappointments over my career, I guess. Like one of them was, I was almost signed with a band that I worked really hard on in the late 90s. And we went to New York to do an audition, a showcase, whatever. It was at SIR in New York. We'd already talked money. We're supposed to be getting a few $100,000 record deal with this is RCA Records. And the vice president of A&R in New York was the one signing us. He was a big wig and he loved the band. It was all happening and all looked great. And he's like, why don't you guys come out to New York and play? It's not a showcase or whatever. We're just going to introduce you guys to the label. It'll be great. And they'd only seen us on our own terms in LA. in front of clubs with a bunch of our fans there, and everybody was like, it's amazing to think how long ago this is, like 25 years ago now almost. But it was around the time Garbage was really popular and bands like that, and this band kind of sounded like that. And so we thought, yeah, New York, let's go that's amazing, and they flew us out to New York, and we went and did this showcase, and our singer really choked. And it's kind of all about the front person, but she was an amazing singer, but she just had a bad day that day. That's all it was. And I felt most bad for her because the weight of the whole thing fell on her, actually. And in those moments when you're not ready to, like, I think she just didn't deal very well with the stress, that's all. But she was young, and it's hard sometimes, and she was now you're not in a club, you're at SIR. It's an important lesson, actually. Like, here you are at SIR Studios in New York. You're a fish out of water, and you're not in your club that you're used to playing in LA with all your friends there telling you how great you look and how awesome you sound and all that stuff. You're in a rehearsal studio in New York City in the middle of the day with no lights, just like white stark lighting. The walls look like an insane asylum, it's all padded. SIR, if you've ever seen pictures of it. And it's big, and there's no stage. I mean, you're in a rehearsal room, so it's a big open room, with like the drum set up and like whatever. So you gotta, and there's a bunch of suits standing there in front of you, standing there like this, like just talking amongst themselves and kind of, by a bunch, I mean like 18, so it's not your crowd. It's not, everybody going crazy in a hot, sweaty club and you've had a couple drinks. It's 4 p.m. in the afternoon in New York or whatever, and it's a totally different thing. To be it's one thing to say, oh, I got this, and it's another thing to actually be in that situation, I guess, as a front person, especially a singer, and selling the thing. So, what she should have done is just be a rock star in that moment. Because, when you go to do TV, the lesson in this is like, every time you do something, people are generally looking for you. We see this with social media. People want to make fun of other people. It's like the negative part of the human, like they're looking for something to poke holes in, not necessarily to be entertained. It's like, oh, they you see fail videos all the time or whatever. And people are kind of, so like, there's a part of human nature where it's like, every time you go out and do something, it's almost like your fans want you to win. But if you haven't won over people yet, and you don't, you're ready to actually kind of pick things apart. Oh, I don't like the way the singer sings, or, oh, and I've tried to actively, like, as a listener, not do that, like not be so critical, find things I like. The bass player's got a great shirt. Like, even if that's the only thing going on that I like about the band, whatever, go to the positive, because it's this human nature thing where we want to like poke holes in things or something. So when a label is looking at giving you hundreds of thousands of dollars and spending a bunch of money on promotion and videos and everything the bands did back then, don't necessarily do as much anymore, but they're actually looking for reasons to not sign you, not reasons to sign you. So even though this guy was like, look, you're already in, the deal's happening, everything's going to be great. It's like, yeah. Except if we go and it sort of sucks or is mediocre, then that's all going to change. And that's exactly what happened. So we went and played, and I just remember that day she was having a nightmare sound check. She said, I can't hear myself. I can't hear my vocals in the monitors. I can't. And the guy was there, the A&R guy, and he was watching all this kind of go down quietly, I can't hear myself. I need to, and it's like, hey, I think she just learned a really hard lesson that day. Like, it was like, this guy's not your friend, and you freaking out and being like, he's not gonna be like, it's okay, we got you. Like, we'll make it work for you. It's like, he's like, this chick's going to melt down if she goes and does a TV show or something. And that's what he's thinking, So that makes sense. So it was we played and we did the show. And I remember thinking, like, I don't know if that went that well. We played and it was okay. It was like, and then afterwards we came in the office the next morning. We had a meeting the next day, kind of a debriefing or whatever. And we went into office at A&R Records, some high rise in New York City, at RCA Records. We went in the office and he looked at her right across the desk and he said, he said, I'm really sorry to tell you this, but you don't have what it takes. Like that, with all of us standing around, the whole band, but singling her out, I'll never forget it. It was one of the harsher things that I've ever seen in this business. You just don't have what it takes. I could still sign you guys right now, but I'd be going against, what everybody at the label's thinking at this point. And So, we're going to have to pass on this, and that was a heavy morning, flying all the way out there and doing that. That's the one that comes to mind. I've had a lot of letdowns, but that was, and I had a very I felt sorry for her is what I felt like. I didn't feel like because I'm looking at her and she's just like, I don't know, like that'll break the spirit of just about anybody, being around and feeling like you disappoint, man, it was harsh. But I just remember him singling her out and going, "You don't have what it takes." Holy shit, like to have a guy like that tell you that's hard to come back from, if in this career. So it was rough. It was an ugly day, Anyways, the band went on to get signed. We did put out a label, but an album on a label, but it wasn't like we did the best we could, but it wasn't what we thought it was going to be. I don't think, that was really the turning point. I feel like at that moment, because it looked like it was all coming together, and who knows what would have happened. Maybe we would have had some hits or gone on. Maybe we would have done nothing. Maybe we would be still playing together and be this thing, But that was a wild moment. Anyways, all right, let's move on. That's a depressing story. Guitars for your project. Did you use a power supply for the? Oh no, I already answered that. Sorry. I think I missed a no, I got all the super chats. That's mean. The dude could have phrased it a lot better and more intelligently. I know that that's true, and it was harsh, but this business is harsh. And then by the same token, it's just business. I get what you're saying, and I felt the same in the moment, but I also felt like it's just that's reality sometimes. And I did, this is a weird thing to say, because it's like she was my friend and stuff, and we worked hard together, but I didn't actually disagree with his assessment in that moment. Had I seen the same show that he saw, I was at the show, I was playing, and I remember thinking, this guy says, so the guy was a coward. Well, I mean, maybe he shouldn't have. I think he just said the vibe at the showcase was not good. People were like, this is the band you're going to sign, kind of thing. And I think the enthusiasm went out. You're spending other people's money. They're trusting you in your job to make, big creative. Just like, I'm trying to see all sides of it. And it was mean, but it's, my friend Roger said to me once, and this is harsh, but he goes, it's not called show friends, it's called show business. And it is a little like that. This business is kind of like that, man. It's like, you can't, it's not about, it's a business, and you're not going to get coddled, you can only push things so far, or not, when you're in a band, you've all got each other's back, and it's like, but, look, if in that situation, we've all been in bands where there's been a member that's kind of like, where you're like, Jesus Christ, dude, can you just get through the gig? Like, can you do, where there's somebody that maybe, and that day, in retrospect, I think she would even probably say, it was like, she had 4 wedges, and like the side fills with the vocals were blaring, and she's singing, and she was just having a mental breakdown, it's just like, knowing what we know now, being a lot older, it would be like, can we just pretend we're in a club, and let's just everybody turn down a bit, maybe at first, and then let's just get let's start from scratch and break it all down, and just be like, just don't worry about it so much, and just sing the damn songs and play, and let's just pretend we're playing in a club in LA, like back at the Garage in LA, punk rock bar where there is no monitors or whatever, and let's just do this set and go off. And then everything would have been fine, But it was a frustrating experience that day with her. I remember, and like going, why are you freaking out? Like, don't freak, just come on. You've sung these songs a million times. It's not rocket science, So that's all, It's a business, man. And, I'll say this. Every time you go do something where there's somebody there that is watching you, this is a big lesson right here, that if there's young people out there watching or whatever, every time you go play for a label or an agent or a manager or whatever it is that you go play for, and they're like, yeah, we just want to see you play or whatever, you're giving them an opportunity to not like you. If you've already got them, do the least amount you have to do for them to poke holes in it. because there's a certain amount of pizzazz and show business in it where they're hot on you. And then if it's like being in a relationship with somebody, and the more you hang out with them, you find the things you don't like, where it's like the longer that that you go, it's like you're going to find things that are like, maybe I shouldn't. And when you're talking about investing a lot of money in something, and it's not a friend's thing, or you know what I mean, like it's just a scary prospect. So you want to showcase it the least amount possible, and you want to lock down deals. Like when they keep asking for more, it's like, you know what, dude, here's one thing that I've learned, like with the way people play off labels and people against one another, because I've known guys that are really brilliant about how to get deals and stuff. You do something for a label, you get them some songs, demo or whatever, and they're like, great, we're still thinking about it, like whatever. And it's kind of like car sales, where it's like, hey man, this deal's not going to be on forever. Like my boss says the car's not going to be on sale tomorrow, so if you want to jump on it, this price is good till 5 p.m. today. Right? It's the same thing when you're trying to get a label or somebody. It's like the more that you try and appease, like, can you just send us a few more songs, or yeah, we really like you, but we're going to come down to your gig next week. Hey man, I've got Columbia Records, actually, like, they're really hot on a deal right now. Like, I want to do something. So I don't know, man, if we're going to be around next week. Like, if you want to do this, you got to jump on it. That's the way that I've seen most people in this business, artist wise. That's your only power, is you're negotiating, because everybody, it's like the girlfriend in high school that everybody wants, it's like, you're jockeying for position or something to like go on a date. It's like that philosophy. You need to make yourself a little bit unobtainium or something, like, and if you can do that and, make them want you, it's like sweeten the, and they think they're going to lose you if they don't make a jump. That's kind of the trick. And managers will do that. Good lawyers, good managers will do that. They'll play off the different, and it's just business. They're playing off I'm sure anybody out there in business, it's not even the music business, probably knows that this is what goes down where you're making deals. So you make them feel like we're going to miss out. Nobody wants to be the next Decca Records with the Beatles, where Decca passes and, and then George Martin gets him a deal or whatever. And like, if you're the guy at Decca that passed on the Beatles, what an asshole you are, you were a dumb, like, right. So everybody's trying to avoid that, and if you can make them feel like they're going to be that guy, the A&R guy at Decca that passed on the Beatles, then all I'm saying is, when it comes to the showcasing thing, you have to play less. Like, yeah, I don't know if we're going to be around in 3 weeks to do a showcase for you, because we're probably going to be in the studio making our record for Capitol or whatever, because we're going to sign, so if you want to move, make us an offer. Yeah. Okay. How's that? Any personal feedback or that you've heard on Wizard Amp Studios? Rock producers have them, not many pro guitar players. So they're built like brick shit houses. Really well built. Rick knows his amps. Tech for Aerosmith, AC/DC for years, built them amps. I used, going way back to my very first record that I ever made, the band called Surreal McCoys in the 90s. We had a ARD 80 and an ARD 50. ARD was ARD. They were just an offshoot of Wizard. It was like, because I guess either Malcolm or Angus said, it sounds hard, mate. Like the sound of the amp sounds hard. But he called them ARD. And that was like of course, he made the Wizard Modern Classic and the metal and stuff. And they were like 2-channel amps, but the ARDs were just like plexis, 4 input, straight up Marshall style. And they were great. I mean, I remember them being kind of ballistically loud and tough sounding, pretty tight, kind of like maybe some might say stiff, but great sounding. My memory, because it's been a long time since I played through one, but my memory is that they sound, generally speaking, really good, and I like them. So, and always well built. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Let's see. Metalhead Tippy says, good story. Yeah, I feel like it's like it was a good, experience for me. I learned a lot from that experience. I don't know what would have, what would have happened had we gone on to sign the deal. I mean, I kind of wish I wish we'd done what I just said, which is not go to New York and just said, we need to move on this deal, if you want to do it. And then we would have made a record, I think, at that point. I don't know what would have happened, but it might have been really cool. Who knows? But in retrospect, that's what you want to play less. That's, if I got to sum it up, like the least you got to showcase for a label, the better. Play less, don't keep playing for them all the time. It's probably not going to work out. Do a show. If you've done a show for them, they've seen your band and they're hot on you, tell them they've seen all they need to see. And now it's time to move, and, or you're going to explore other options, That's my recommendation. When is CRS coming to Australia? I would love to go there and play. It's really expensive to get down there. So, and I think it would make a lot of sense, but it'd have to be I would love to go, but it's just it's a whole thing. And I think the band would do really well down there, actually. And we could probably do probably at least 10 shows or something like that. Maybe go, obviously try and make a jaunt to New Zealand while we're there too, and play 3 or 4 at least over there. So what happened to her? Well, I've kind of lost touch with her, actually. I'm not sure the singer of that band, the RCA story. She moved to Nashville. Not sure what she's doing now, to be honest. I haven't talked to her for years. Is she still around performing? She did for years in LA afterwards and stuff. And in her element, she's actually one of the most amazing singers that I've ever played with. She could do like Janis Joplin, like crazy good, like that kind of stuff, really great. But I think she went on to do she was really good at doing I don't know if she made a career out of this, but she was really good at doing like fashion design kind of stuff, like dressing people for things, for shoots and things. She might have gone on to do that. I'm not sure. But anyways, yeah. What else we got here? What speaker do you think is the best alternative to the G12M T1221 25 watt pre-roller? That, I mean, the best alternative, I don't mind the modern greenback. That's just the one that they make in China. That's what we use in, say, the top part of the PT100 412 cabinet. It's a good sounding speaker. Does it sound exactly the same as the old ones? No. What's the closest I've heard? Probably the Scumbag PVC M75 that Jim always says will catch on fire if you put too much power into them. But that speaker did sound really, really good. So that would be something to look at. The Scumbag's either the M75 or the either in the 65 watt or if you can do a 412 and you're not going to hit it too hard with like a cranked 100 watt amp all the time. If it's just a 50 watt amp, a 412 with 4 of those PVC 25s, paper voice coil, instead of the Nomex voice coil or whatever, it's the paper voice coil PVC. I have one of those still in a cabinet here, and it sounds really good to me. It's probably the most vintage sounding sort of option I've heard. Has a boss asked you to review the RC600 looper? No, they haven't. I'm not really the looper guy. I don't really love doing reviews of looper pedals. I've done quite a few. Having said that, always dread them a little bit. So I don't know that they will ask me to do that, but I'm not the Ed Sheeran guy, I sometimes get into it and then I surprise myself with like, oh, this is actually kind of fun once I come up with something musical to play through them. I've done, Pigtronics, Keeley, Boss Looper. I don't know if I ever did a Boss Looper video yet, but what other loopers did I do? I don't remember. I've done at least 3 or 4 looper pedals. Oh, God. Almost over this cold. Have you seen the cat since you've been back? Yes. Love that kitty. Toby. All right, what time is it? 1:38. It's almost time to go. I've gone 2 hours. I'll go another few minutes, maybe till 1:45 or something, and then I'll get out of here. Any advice how to get your music on streaming services? I use DistroKid a lot these days. Just go to distrokid.com. You pay a yearly subscription. I believe it's $19.95 a year, and you get to upload as much music as you want, and you can put it on any streaming service. Tidal, Apple, Google Play, the evil Spotify. Yeah. So DistroKid is, long story short, my favorite. There's a number of different services like that, TuneCore and different ones, but I'm a DistroKid fan. CD Baby, I used to use. I don't know about CD Baby anymore, but yeah. All right. I can feel a cough fit coming on. You guys ever have that where it's like always happens in a restaurant or something? It's really fun these days with COVID going around. Everybody looks at you like you're Satan. Sorry. The filth LA. Sorry. I think I need some water. Keep going. 1 sec. And I'll come back for 5 more minutes. Sorry, guys. Okay, EVH Destroyer pickup. Yes, that Seymour Duncan ad from 79 is an important piece of evidence. Yeah, there's more, though. YouTube won't let me send you a link in Super Chat. God, it's bad right now. That's what I had all day yesterday on the airplane, where you get that, post-nasal thing, and then you start coughing. Sucks. Send me the link just to my email, PeteThorn@ymail.com. You can just send it to me there. Letter Y mail. Well, this is awkward. Hey, man, it happens. I'm human. Yeah, just send that to me. And I'll watch your video. I'd love to see it and what the evidence is, because of course I'm fascinated with that subject. Pete got airplane cough. No, I've had this for about a week, and I feel like I'm on the tail end of. I hate getting colds, man, because when I get it, it lasts, and it always does the same thing. It goes right here, and then I get this congestion, and it's like, and I haven't had a cold for 2 years. I know I don't have COVID because I had to, of course, take tests to get on the airplane. So I've done a couple of those in the last week, and it's not that. It's just it's a standard congestion, head cold stuff. Miss Super Chat. Which one did I miss? This one. Classic S and Classic T for blues. Robert, what was your original question? Just ask down in the bottom of the chat. I'll look so that I've got context. Who's this guy? This guy needs to be timed out. Put user in timeout. Goodbye. There we go. Which classic T pickups for blues? Good in the mids, not bright. V60 LP. If you want not too bright. Low peak. LP stands for low peak. Classic T, you got to ask John. His original sort of telly broadcaster pickup is great in the bridge. The Mateus Asado pickup he recommends to me, because I've got a Sir Classic T that has kind of a dark neck pickup, and he says you'll like the Mateus pickup because it's got more top end. It's got more of a stratty thing, for lack of a better term, in the neck. So I want to try his Mateus pickup in my guitar. But anyways, I would try his original telly broadcaster pickup. I don't know what they call that, but whatever they've been putting in tellies for years in the bridge, and maybe the Mateus pickup in the neck. Or you say good in the mids, not bright. You might like his original, I just find it a little on the dark side. It's a little muted sounding to me. V60 LPs, very nice for what you're saying. Also the Landau Classics and Landau Standards, which are now called, I think he only makes one now, is the V63. That's what I've got in my new guitar. I think it sounds great. I bet you'd have to ask the Sir guys, but I think the V60 LP is probably darker than the V63. I could be wrong, but not sure. Super chats. Hey, thanks, man, for some cough minutes. Plan videos this week or like next? Well, okay, so I wanted to make, and I filmed it, and I just need to finish editing it, actually, a video on how I was using the quad cortex, because there's a lot of quad fans and stuff on YouTube, and they've got questions about how I'm using the quad cortex. Some people are confused about how I used it, like on this last tour, as opposed to how I was using it. There was a thread on it on the gear page this morning about, people were like, I think he's using the PT-15 on the Van Halen gig with Mitch Malloy. And I was like, no, I used that on the Classic Rock Show gig, but on that one gig, just the Mitch Malloy gig, I only used the quad. So anyway, I want to clear up some of how I'm using it. So I'm gonna put out a video about how I just used it on the Classic Rock Show tour with sound examples. And I've got some sound examples from direct coming out of the quad, also my cab on stage, and also in the PA in the house, so that you can hear, the sounds of how I was using it. Because I was using it kind of a cool way on the back end of my amp, on the line out of the PT-15. That ran into the quad. I did a few effects in the quad, speaker sim in the quad, and then split out to stereo, to the house and to my in-ears. It's an easy way to get stereo with just one amp. You can have your cabinet on stage. Of course, the only disadvantage is the effects in the quad are not going to be heard out of the cabinet on stage. But if you've got in-ears in anyway, you hear it in there. And I didn't really care. It was like the only times where it was like kind of like, I wish I could hear this, was like pull the in-ears out, and then you've just got the dry sound in the cabinet. So there was a few things where I'd be playing, going, I wish I could hear that nice echo that I know is in the PA. But there's a little bit of a compromise that way. But a great way to get a stereo rig going. So anyways, that's one of the videos. Also, we did a whole rig rundown thing with everybody's rigs and guitars and James's stuff, and so I need to edit that. So I'll be doing that. Now here I've got some work to do. Pedals. Somebody's dropping off a fuzz for me to do video this week. I owe Drybell a video that I never put out, which is, I've kind of been negligent about that. I should have gotten it done ages ago, but for a Vibe, the V3 version of their Vibe pedal. And I need to see what's here in the hallway, what came by the studio while I was away. So I'm not sure. It's a video for an acoustic guitar as well. But I'll think up some other fun things. Maybe if you guys got any ideas about stuff you'd like me to do, just outside of the realm of pedal demos and stuff, let me know, because I got to get back into it. I just need to get my head back in the space of being in here and making videos and stuff again. So, yeah. Without committing career suicide, how was it living with people 20 to 25 years younger for that length of time? Well, sorry, I don't get your question, Stephen. Living with people 20 to 25 years younger. Yeah, I think I better stop. Oh, man. Coughing fit. Somebody was asking about Duesenberg guitars. I think I better go. Ever cough in the middle of a gig? Yes, I've had this happen. When I get a fit. Somebody was asking about Duesenbergs, but I missed the question. Sorry. Lemon drops. Pete got airplane cough. Yeah, you need to take a break. Maybe that's true. Maybe I should stop for now. To see you guys next week. Got to get well. I'm gonna do it and work on it right now. I'll be better by next week. All right, you guys. Have a awesome week. I'll try and get that video up for the quad within the next few days. I should be able to do that. And I love you all. Thanks for being here. It's great to be back. Great to see you all here. Thanks for coming back every week. I couldn't be here without you. Everybody take it easy.